Exogenetic Processes, Part 1. Introduction. Many landforms are formed due to the internal movements. Many processes occurring on the Earth's surface also lead to the formation or degradation of landforms continuously. In this lesson, we will be studying the exogenetic, that is, external processes and the landforms formed by them. External processes occur because of the forces working on the Earth's surface. They are mainly solar energy, gravitational force, and kinetic energy associated with the moving objects on the Earth's surface. No. Landforms formed on the Earth's surface as a result of internal movements are called primary and secondary landforms. For example, continents, mountains, plateaus, plains, etc. Because of the external processes like weathering, erosion, transportation, and deposition, the primary and secondary landforms give way to the tertiary landforms. For example, valleys, sand dunes, delta, U-shaped valleys, etc. Can you tell? See the given pictures. Observe the physical appearance of the rocks in each picture. You can see that rocks are broken, fractured, and have holes in them. In a picture, you can also see that the statue has been deformed. Why are the rocks in such a condition? Think about them and briefly tell the reasons you can think of. Discuss the reasons. Check with the teachers if your reasons are relevant. Geographical explanation. Breaking or weakening of rocks is a natural phenomenon. It is called weathering. Weathering can be of three types: mechanical, that is physical, chemical, and biological. In arid climates, mechanical weathering is dominant, while in humid climates, chemical weathering is more effective. Biological weathering occurs because of living organisms. Mechanical weathering. Try this. Take an onion, cut it in the middle. Observe the cut parts. Try to remove each skin layer of these parts. You will notice that just as we can remove each and every outer layer of the onion, similarly, in nature, rocks undergo such a process. The exposed part of the rock heats more, while the inner part is comparatively cooler. As a result, the outer layers of the rocks fall apart from the main rock. This is called exfoliation of the rock. Mechanical weathering mainly occurs because of the following reasons: temperature, frost, crystal growth, release of pressure, water. Temperature. The minerals in the rocks expand because of heat and contract when the temperature decreases. Due to such continuous contracting and expanding, tension develops in the rock particles. Each mineral reacts differently to the temperature. Some minerals expand more, while others do not expand as much. Consequently, the tension formed in the rocks also increases and decreases. As a result, cracks develop in the rocks and they break. In areas where the diurnal range of temperature is higher, weathering of this type is common in the hot deserts. Frost. You know that the volume of the water increases when it freezes. In areas where the temperature drops below 0 degrees Celsius for quite some time, the water accumulated in the cracks and crevices in the rocks freezes. Its volume increases. This leads to tension in the rocks and they shatter. Crystal growth. In rocky coasts, waves hit the sea cliff. The water is alkaline. Some water droplets hit the cracks in the rocks. In this alkaline water, the soluble materials in the rock get dissolved. This leads to the formation of small holes in the rocks. This is the effect of solution. Alkaline water gets stored in these holes. Because of heat, this water turns into water vapor and only crystals of alkaline materials remain in the rocks. Crystals occupy more space. This causes tension in the rock. Holes are formed in the rocks. It looks like a honeycomb. Release of pressure. It is not that tension is created in the rocks only because of temperature, freezing of water, or crystallization. The outer layers of the rocks exert pressure on the inner or lower layers. When this pressure ceases to exist, the lower or inner layers get freed from the pressure. This also leads to weathering. Water. Some areas experience more rainfall than others. In such areas, soaking of rock water also causes weathering of some rocks like sandstone conglomerate. These rocks are formed because of pressure on the agglomeration of sand particles. Mud also makes sand particles come together. When water penetrates such rocks, the particles get loose and separate from the main rock. This is called granular weathering. Sometimes both temperature and water are responsible for weathering. Difference in temperature causes contraction and expansion, widening the joints or the cracks in the rocks. Water accumulates in such wide joints and big blocks of rocks separate from each other. This is called block disintegration. Chemical weathering. Take a glass of water and put a piece of chalk in it. On the next day, observe what has happened to it and answer the following questions. Did the color of the water change? What happened to the chalk? Water plays an important role in chemical weathering. Rock is a universal solvent. Many things get dissolved easily in water. The solubility increases because the matter has dissolved in water, and those materials which do not dissolve easily in water get dissolved in such solutions. In areas that received heavy rainfall, chemical weathering occurs in the following way. Carbonation. The rainwater travels through the atmosphere before reaching the ground. Carbon dioxide in the air gets mixed in the water in this process. Dilute carbonic acid gets formed. Materials like limestone get easily dissolved in such acids. For example, water plus carbon dioxide is equal to carbonic acid. H2O plus CO2 is equal to H2CO3. Solution. Some minerals in the rock get dissolved in water. Limestone is formed due to chemical precipitation between water and alkalis. At Vadgaon Darya in Ahmednagar district, limestone gets precipitated chemically. That is, undergoes chemical weathering again. Similarly, because of solution, alkalis in the rock dissolve and make them brittle. Oxidation. Try this. Wrap few iron nails in a wet cloth. Open the cloth after 2 days. Observe what happens and answer the following questions. Are there any stains on the cloth? Which color are they? What could be the reason for the stains? This process occurs in rocks which have iron present in them. The iron in the rocks comes in contact with water and a chemical reaction takes place between iron and oxygen. Hence, a reddish-colored layer forms on the rocks. This is called rust. When you kept the nails in a wet cloth, you must have noticed a similar thing. A similar process occurs in rocks in areas with high rainfall. There are many processes involved in chemical weathering besides the ones mentioned above. Daily life examples include moistening of table salt in rainy season, apple slices turning brown, etc. Biological weathering. Besides mechanical and chemical weathering, biological factors are also responsible for the weathering of rocks. Have you visited any fort? Have you seen trees growing on their minarets? You also must have seen pieces of rocks getting separated because of the roots of the trees. As the roots grow bigger, they create tension in the rocks and start breaking them. Ants make large anthills. Rats, mice, rabbits, and other worms and insects make burrows in the ground. These animals are called burrowing animals. Because of their activity, algae, moss, lichen, other flora, etc. grow in the rocks. They also help in weathering. Let's recall. Have you seen the process of biological weathering around you? Mass movements or mass wasting. The weathered rock materials start moving along the slopes due to gravity and accumulate near the foothills or the gentler slopes. This process has been happening for years. The weathered particles form a conical heap at the foothills. When the weathered particles move down due to gravity alone, the process is called mass movements. Mass movements occur in two ways. It is rapid on steeper slopes, while it is slower on gentle slopes. Rapid mass movements. Rockfalls, landslides, land subsidence occur rapidly. Their effects are very destructive. The probability of these events is more in the regions having humid climates and steeper slopes. A thick layer of weathered material forms on the slope. When it rains in such areas, the rainwater penetrates the weathered materials and their weight increases. The weathered materials move very rapidly and come down the slope. For example, the mudslide at Malin village of Pune district. Sometimes the weathered materials do not move downward but sink in situ, that is, where they are. This is called slumping. Such rapid mass movements may also occur because of earthquakes. Slower mass movements. In areas with dry climates and gentler slopes, mass movements occur slowly. Soil creep is a common phenomenon in such areas. In periglacial regions along the slopes, small layers of soil accumulate because of the movement of soil. This is called solifluction.